Deep in winter, Montana's Bison Valley lay peaceful and serene. Today, the elder craftsman would use elk hooves to create a small hunting pouch. Historically, indigenous peoples called it a deer leg bag, used to carry ammunition and essential supplies. Exceptionally practical. He had 2 fresh hooves, plus 2 tanned hides on hand. Just enough materials. Though Tom had crafted countless items over his lifetime, this traditional indigenous pouch was his first attempt. He aimed to recreate this piece for donation to Yak's Wings, a charitable organization in Bison Valley. Their annual auction raised funds to cover transportation costs for cancer patients traveling to hospitals. Tom had participated for 2 consecutive years. To deliver the pouch on time, he worked against the clock today, determined to complete every step. Additionally, Aunt Nancy would craft a beaver tooth necklace to accompany the pouch. First, skinning the hide from the deer leg. Crucially, the dew claws must remain intact as decoration. A small bone lay inside each. Removal required extreme care, as leaving it behind risked decay. After thorough cleaning, salt was sprinkled inside to absorb moisture and kill bacteria. Once set aside, surface salt was brushed off, and the hide washed. Using an heirloom scraper, residual fat was removed. This allowed brain matter to penetrate the hide effectively. Buffalo brains were used for tanning, applied evenly in multiple layers. Unique compounds in the brains softened and strengthened the hide. While Tom tanned, Nancy crafted the beaver tooth necklace. In indigenous culture, this jewelry symbolized diligence and unity. Each tooth was wrapped in hide, tightly stitched, then adorned with colorful beads. By necklace completion, Tom's hides were ready. The couple now trimmed them to identical sizes for seamless assembly. 2 hides were stitched together, then joined with the other pair. Sides were folded and hemmed to expand storage capacity. Next, a pouch flap was cut from brain-tanned moose hide, edged with punched holes and lacing. An antler base plate was attached as ornamentation. Finally, fringed shoulder straps were secured to complete the pouch. They tidied the workspace, awaiting Yak's Wings collection. Soon, Christie arrived. He visited annually to request Tom's donations, knowing his handcrafted items commanded high auction values. Tom never refused, giving generously each time. Performing good deeds, he believed, blessed future generations. Christie admired this year's necklace and pouch, confessing they'd likely be the auction's most coveted items. Now in its 26th year, the charity thrived thanks to community members like Tom. Their kindness and dedication inspired deep respect. To Tom, contributing his modest skills to help others remained a profound, lifelong pride. At auction, their creations proved wildly popular. The necklace and deer leg pouch sold for $2,125 USD. What do you think was this price fair? Given the chance, would you bid for them? Kodiak Island, Alaska, ranks among Earth's most desolate places. Following the start of trapping season, Mike planned to harvest some fur-bearing animals. During bear hunting season, he worked as a guided hunt outfitter. Come winter, survival depended solely on hunting and fishing. Earlier, he harvested an elk, securing his winter food supply. Now he aimed to trap beavers or otters for extra cash. Though wilderness living allowed self-sufficiency in food, expenses like ammunition and gasoline remained unavoidable. Moreover, to better serve clients during bear season, he purchased a large tract of undeveloped land to build a new hunting outpost, a substantial financial commitment. Last winter, Mike built a small bridge from driftwood to access his property, but spring floods, triggered by a breached upstream beaver dam, swept his bridge away entirely. Before rebuilding, he needed to clear beavers upstream to prevent recurrence. Earlier, while scouting the mountains, Mike discovered a large beaver lodge and dam upstream along this river. Hiking deep into the area, he arrived to a staggering sight. Vast stretches of timber stripped bare, clearly the work of a sizable colony. Beavers benefit the environment in controlled numbers but can severely disrupt ecosystems when overpopulated. After extensive searching nearby, Mike finally located a massive beaver lodge with submerged feed caches. He also spotted several beavers and otters playing mid-river. Typically, these species coexisted, When otter pelts held little value, Mike avoided trapping them. But this year's price surged to 200. It remember Faltonation. 250 USD. Forced by necessity, he proceeded. Otter fur boasts 585 hairs per square millimeter, nearly double that of mink, and exceptional water resistance, driving its rising value. Trapping methods proved straightforward. Placing conibear 330 traps in active zones yielded reliable results. After setting his first trap, Mike continued upstream. Fish bones littered a gully along the bank, a prime trap location promising high efficiency. Pushing farther, he reached the colossal dam spanning nearly 140 meters. Remarkably, what was once a meter-wide creek now formed a small lake. A sudden breach would devastate downstream areas. Yet destroying the dam now threatened an established ecosystem teeming with fish and waterfowl. Instead, Mike deployed traps to manage the beaver population sustainably. If the lake's expansion halted, he could rebuild his bridge. All remaining traps were set here. 2 days later, Mike checked his lines. First stop, the otter traps. Immediately, the first held an otter, a large specimen. Bagging it, he moved upstream. Luck held. A second otter. These 2 pelts would bring nearly $500 USD significant income, yet still insufficient for bridge costs. At the upstream dam, the first trap sat empty, dimming Mike's spirits. But the second trap sparked relief. A third otter, adding $250 USD. While earnings climbed, the problematic beavers remained elusive. Failure at the final trap would mean defeat. Just as hope nearly faded, a breakthrough emerged. These creatures rarely work alone, so resetting the traps should yield more catches. After capturing 2, he would cease, to allow the beavers breathing room. Already carrying 3 otters in his pack, adding this beaver would overburden him. Mike decided to skin it on site, keeping the pelt while leaving the nearly 30-pound carcass for scavengers. Moving forward, he would trap a few annually to maintain ecological balance nearby, while earning supplemental income. A perfect solution. With the day's success secured, Mike headed home for a well-deserved cup of tea. In Montana, Hunter Jack aspired to earn $1,000 USD daily. Typically, he pursued mountain lions, a ruthless, life-risking profession. But scarce snowfall in the Ruby Valley had nearly halted his operations. No income meant no family support. Though his father-in-law was wealthy, Jack would never rely on handouts. Fortunately, opportunity arose. While tracking lions, he encountered numerous lynx. Just last week, his hound team cornered 3. Mounting evidence confirmed. The species was becoming overpopulated. Holding a trapping license with a limited quota, Jack could legally harvest lynx for income. Based on size and pelt quality, graded accordingly. Pelts fetched 500. It is not caught. 500, 1,500 USD each. With luck, his $1,000 daily earnings goal seemed achievable. Packing gear? He drove to recent lynx sighting areas. Bait used was rooster meat, non-laying males, wired firmly to trees. He then added wool soaked in his secret. Extremely pungent rotten meat lure, plus a shiny pendant. As visual enticement. Lynx could detect the rot scent from afar and spot the glitter from ridges. Stirring their appetite and curiosity drew them closer. The traps resembled wolf snares. Once prey approached the bait, escape was unlikely. He covered each trap with paper, sifted soil over it, and brushed away traces, then departed confidently. Crucially, traps were set swiftly, to minimize lingering human scent. Next, he visited another lynx hotspot, featuring a narrow passage, impassable on both sides, funneling movement through the center, ideal for snare placement. He anchored one end to a tree, suspend a one-way sliding loop. At lynx head height, a spiked twig positioned strategically, forced approaching animals to lift their heads precisely into the loop. Only after thorough preparation did Jack finally head home, satisfied. The following day arrived. He commenced his first trap check. Given the potential danger of the prey, extreme caution was imperative. His meticulously set first trap remained empty. He departed silently, hoping for better fortune tomorrow. Continuing onward, he reached the snare trap location. From afar, he spotted movement within. The captured prey was his long-awaited lynx. Its size was above average, with exceptionally beautiful fur, likely fetching 500. It is not caught. 501,000 USD. For Jack, this meant significant earnings. With mountain lion hunting proving unprofitable this year, he had finally found a viable income source. All men worldwide share this truth. Only stable earnings bring inner peace. Meanwhile, on distant Kodiak Island, veteran hunter Mike planned to harvest Alaska snow crabs from the waters near his home. Also called Tanner crabs or queen crabs, they're prized by gourmets for their legs, sweet, tender meat. This season, heavy commercial harvesting of king crabs and Dungeness crabs, coupled with environmental factors, had dwindled their numbers. But snow crab populations flourished. Mike held a personal use fishing permit, meaning catches couldn't be sold, only consumed personally. He borrowed 2 crab pots from a friend to satisfy his craving. Flying fish served as bait, secured inside the pots, to lure crabs scrambling in. As known, crabs don't scatter randomly. They cluster collectively on specific seabed areas. Misplaced pots meant empty hauls, making this venture essentially a gamble. Typically, Tanner crabs dwelled near 400-meter depths, but during breeding season, they migrated to shallower waters. Using sonar, Mike located a 50-fathom spot to deploy his first pot. Whether crabs would bite depended solely on luck. For the second pot, he tested a different depth and location. No one could predict the prey's hideout. The next day arrived. Time to retrieve the pots. Even crabless, a waterlogged pot weighed over 100 pounds. Without a large boat or winch, hauling such weight strained Mike's strength. His solution: attach a large buoy with a fixed iron ring as an anchor point, then use his small boat as a tug to haul the pot ashore. Driving his amphibious craft, he located the buoy, untied the rope, threaded it through the anchor point, and motored toward shore. The buoy lifted the pot upward, before towing it. Upon reaching shore, he secured the rope to a wooden stake, slowly winching the pot from the water. Though laborious, this method conserved energy and minimized risks. But after immense effort, the pot emerged empty. Resigned, he pinned hopes on the second pot. Using the same hauling method, Mike's persistence finally paid off in abundance. Small crabs were released immediately. Keepers were set aside for enjoyment. Tonight, he would feast royally, freezing leftovers to satisfy future cravings. Mike's crab preparation was brutally simple. Boil a bucket of seawater, discard the top shell, split the body and legs into halves for boiling. No seasonings added. He was eating it purely for that authentic, unadulterated taste. Fur trapper Marty stands unmatched among hunters. This year's abundant pine marten catches filled his coffers once more. Recently, temperatures in his Revelation Mountains territory plunged below 40 Fahrenheit continuously. Though rarely daunted by extreme weather, he recognized limits. Being stranded far from home in such cold could prove fatal. Since this Arctic cold front hit, he'd been confined to his cabin for 5 days. Even with the wood stove burning constantly, frost patterns coated the window panes, a chilling testament to the cold's severity. Truthfully, Marty didn't hole up endlessly. Urgent tasks demanded braving the elements. His woodpile dwindled, requiring timely replenishment. A dead tree near his cabin offered ideal firewood. Unlike snow-buried logs, standing timber stayed drier inside, igniting easily. Felling it, sawing into sections, then splitting with an axe, yielded ready-to-burn fuel. A tree this size would last roughly a week, enough to outlast the cold snap. Trapping season's imminent end fueled Marty's restlessness. Being housebound with unpaid chores frustrated him deeply, yet he felt powerless. In his youth, he'd have recklessly hunted regardless of cold. Now, aged and wiser, he rarely challenged nature head-on. Thus, he remained cabin-bound a full week. Today, temperatures rose to 37 Fahrenheit. Still brutal, but Marty could wait no longer. Trapping season's final deadline loomed. He'd patrol nearly 200 kilometers of trap lines, for one last check, while deactivating all traps, complying strictly with regulations, to sustain his hunting livelihood long-term. Surprisingly, despite a week's absence, a sable awaited in one trap. Empty traps were simply triggered to deactivate and left secured on trees for next season's reuse. Heavy recent snowfall had toppled some trees. Others could be ignored, but road-blocking ones required clearing. Having forgotten his chainsaw, he cleared the path with his axe. Continuing onward, a line of tracks caught his eye, size and shape unmistakably revealed. A wolf pack passage. Alaska gray wolves, among the region's most valuable species, are valued at over $2,000 USD total. Marty had set wolf traps along their frequented routes. Catching just one would offset his week's confinement losses. He hurried on his snowmobile to the trap site. Oddly, paw prints littered the snow, but no wolf was caught. Marty remembered this spot distinctly. Several grays had been taken here before. He retrieved the wolf trap, hanging it securely on a nearby tree for next year's use. Theft wasn't a concern. This vast wilderness held no other humans. Returning to the trapline, he resumed deactivation. By nightfall, the final trap was secured. Mission accomplished. The prospect of returning home tomorrow, to see his wife and children, filled him with genuine happiness radiating from within. Back in his cabin, he inventoried the season's harvest. Pelts filling the room confirmed another prosperous year. Marty has trapped here nearly 4 decades. Annual sable catches remained high, yet their numbers inexplicably increased. Thus, to him, fur represented a green, renewable resource, causing zero ecological harm. Genuine fur offered warmth and beauty, whereas garments made from petrochemicals inflicted real environmental damage. In sparsely populated Alaska, with regulated trapping systems, his perspective held validity. But in densely inhabited regions, this approach might backfire. Valuable species could vanish overnight. Today, he packed all pelts meticulously. If weather permitted tomorrow, he'd fly home immediately. Nature favored Marty this time. Dawn brought calm, sunny skies. Temperatures remained punishingly low, but his resolve was absolute. Last night's inventoried pelts were loaded onto his plane. Engine started, full throttle applied. He soared skyward. Homecomings always stirred mixed emotions. He yearned to see family, yet detested returning to crowded towns. For now, he consoled himself. After enduring one tedious summer, he'd return to hunt again. Hours later, Marty touched down safely at his Two Rivers home. In the Kootenai National Forest of northwest Montana, an experienced hunter can earn $2,000 USD for trapping a gray wolf. Using his hunting income, Paul purchased a 15-acre homestead in the pristine wilderness and built a 2-story cottage. 4 weeks earlier, a friend flew him over his hunting grounds, revealing new trapping locations. Since then, he'd been setting traps in these spots, hoping to unlock new revenue streams. Today, he ventured out again to check his beaver traps for catches. Montana experienced lighter snowfall and higher temperatures this year, severely disrupting trapping and hunting. These conditions also rendered his snowmobile unreliable, constantly getting stuck. With only weeks left in trapping season, every moment counted. Catching animals after the season's end would be illegal. Luck turned early. His snowmobile malfunctioned. Fortunately, his habit of carrying tools and spare parts prevented a wasted day. After replacing the damaged belt, he continued his journey. Midway, Lynx tracks caught his eye, prompting a stop. Their presence likely signaled rabbit hunting. Since lynx trapping remained legal this season, Paul decided to set a box trap here, hoping for a catch or two. Lynx and wolverines held similar value, each fetching over $600 USD. First, he clipped spruce branches with pliers, constructing a chalice-shaped frame. Small leafy branches covered the top to shield against snow accumulation. Wolf traps were placed at both entrance and exit points of the small enclosure. Bait consisted of fox urine lure and a large slab of fox meat. When a lynx approached the bait, it would need to enter through the entrance. Stepping directly onto the trap, becoming a secured catch. After completing the setup, he stepped back to admire his work, nodding with satisfaction, before resuming his journey. Though skilled at wolf trapping, Paul struggled with pine martens. Old Tom had mentored him last year, yielding some improvement, but unsatisfactory catch rates. With trapping season half over, he hadn't caught his first marten yet. Despite their small size, each brought around $100 USD. So Paul persisted in refining his traps. To protect non-target animals, he used box traps identical to Tom's. As a hunter dependent on the land, he respected both the wilderness and its creatures, avoiding indiscriminate killing. After placing the box, he loaded it with beaver meat, smearing foul fish oil on the trunk outside, and installed a conibear trap at the entrance. Completing the setup. In this marten-rich zone, he maximized trap placements. After multiple stops, Paul finally reached his beaver trap location. Today's primary mission. He probed the stake in the snow hole, finding it snapped in two. A promising sign, indicating prey activity nearby, but extraction revealed. The beaver had gnawed through the stake, without getting caught. A nearby conibear trap also remained empty. Only one set of cable snares remained. Without a catch here, he'd return empty-handed today. After a full day's work outside, he finally had some harvest. He would process this pelt using Old Tom's method, ensuring significantly higher earnings than usual. Additionally, he extracted the castoreum to create potent lure, collected tail fat for beaver tail oil, used the forelegs for dog food, reserved the abdominal oil glands for lynx or coyote trapping, and ground the remaining parts into bait. Not a single part of the beaver would be wasted. Paul was satisfied with this catch. He removed all traps from the area to avoid overharvesting the family group. Only through such planned trapping could a virtuous cycle be maintained, ensuring future prey would never run out. The 6-month trapping season comes to an end as the ice and snow melt in spring. The streams break free from their restraints, flowing freely, awakening the dormant plants along their path. Life begins a new cycle. Today marks the last day of the trapping season. Hunter Paul needs to inspect all his traps and retrieve them. This year, he has opened many new routes in his hunting grounds to trap beavers and coyotes, but the results have been mixed so far. Although he's caught more of other animals than before, the coyotes, his main financial source, have been captured in far fewer numbers than last year. Such is the life of relying on nature's whims. When luck is on your side, money comes as easily as the wind blows. But when it's not, you might even struggle to put food on the table. After driving for a while, Paul stops. Here lies one of his coyote traps. But after the snow melted into water, and the water froze again, the buried trap has completely failed. Even if a coyote passes by, it won't be triggered. Not far from here, another coyote trap is in the same condition. It seems catching one more coyote on the last day is quite a challenge. Given the vast size of his hunting grounds, it might take him several years to fully familiarize himself with the area. By then, he should be catching more game. After navigating a bumpy, rugged path, he arrives at a small pond. A while ago, Paul set up 3 beaver traps in this area. Unexpectedly, he caught 2 beavers at once today. Having such a harvest on the last day of the trapping season is truly a pleasant surprise. These 2 beavers are quite large, with beautiful fur, perfect for making fur-lined gloves. But not every trap yields such luck. After retrieving the traps from the water and walking a bit farther, he reaches his last trap. Though he didn't catch a coyote in the end, fortunately, there's a fox caught in it. This kind of pelt can be used for coat collars, cuffs, or hats, and can fetch some dollars. With that, Paul's trapping season concludes perfectly. By now it's already afternoon. Due to the melting snow causing waterlogged paths, the way home is extremely difficult. Thankfully, his off-road vehicle has enough horsepower to get him home safely. Back in his workshop, Paul doesn't rest for even a moment. He immediately starts processing the pelts. Typically, beaver pelts are made into round, semi-finished products. But to turn them into gloves, the fur's continuity must be preserved as much as possible. Thus, the skinning technique needs to be adjusted. Like peeling off a sock, Paul is usually busy with many tasks, so he doesn't have time for tanning himself. He sends the furs to a nearby garment factory for processing. This piece of meat is the beaver's castor sac, also known as castoreum, a raw material for making perfume. The beaver meat, meanwhile, is ground up for bait. The skulls are bought by collectors for a bit of extra cash. The 4 legs become snacks for his dogs. Truly, not a single part goes to waste. After finishing these tasks, Paul takes stock of his inventory to deliver it to buyers in exchange for cash. There are 12 round beaver pelts in total, usually used for making rugs or wall decorations. There are also 8 whole beaver pelts, along with coyote and muskrat pelts, and 3 bobcat pelts, likely worth around $1,500. In the end, he has a total of 64 furs, valued at approximately $17,000. Overall, it's less than last year, but once he becomes more familiar with his hunting grounds, his income is sure to rise. Before heading to the sales point, he cleans and shapes all the pelts to ensure they fetch a good price. After selling his goods, Paul drives 160 kilometers to Yak Valley. Through Old Tom, he meets Will, who runs a trading post, as he has some high-quality items to consign there, such as coyote fur slippers, gloves, hats, keychains, and more. He also brings along a particularly beautiful bobcat pelt. These are the coyote fur mittens, looking exceptionally warm. Will's shop never accepts cheap handicrafts, so the fact that Paul can consign here proves the quality of his goods. After finishing here, he takes the opportunity to visit Old Tom and Nancy, bringing them the accumulated castoreum.